Hi, welcome to the channel. My name's Adrian, and as you can see, I've got a special guest, but this is a different one. So I've joined by Will from Runeforged. You're right?
Hey, Adrian. Yeah, man, doing great. Excited to be here.
No, good. It's great to have you. So what we've done is we've already recorded that has gone live on his channel. We did a review of Twisted Tales 4, which, as you're a fan on this channel, you'll be aware that I loved 1, 2, and 3. So did I like 4? Not going to spoil it. Go over there and watch it. We'll put that into the link for the description of this video. So that was your pick. My pick was Runes Volume 1 after lots of recommendations from my subscribers. They were like, you shouldn't pick this up. And so, as ever, we're just going to start with the affiliate link of where you can pick it up. And here we have, so we like using TTRPG. It gives a nice summary of it. It's only available in PDF currently. It is $7.49, which is probably around about $10, I would guess.
Yeah, $10 US.
Yeah. It's got some good reviews on here. It's 40 pages, and it is a zine for ShadowDark. So published by the obviously talks about the Arcane Library, Kelsey Dion. But this is a zine. It's basically a resource zine for games masters. Well, it says and players. I'm not really sure that. What do you think? It's not really a players.
No, I don't think there's anything in there for players. Yeah.
No, I'm agreeing with you. But it's basically lots of random tables. Massive fan of Warhammer Fantasy role playing, so more random tables can only be a good thing. It's also got an adventure in here with some maps as well. But we'll get into that as we get into the video. So we're sat on copper. If you do want to pick this up, then please do consider using my affiliate link. This is something that I did buy out of my own money, and anything that that comes through on the affiliate link, I then put into the channel so I can create more. William is exactly the same. So we do. We don't, not relying on is the wrong thing to say, but we deeply appreciate everyone that uses our affiliate links. It's and then say everything goes back in, so we just keep creating content.
Yep, absolutely.
Right, so let's get over then and let's have a look at the front cover. So here we have the front cover for Rune. So this is volume 1. There are several volumes out there, but we're going to. So it says random charts, new magic items, new creatures. There's an adventure included in here as well. So what's your thoughts on the front cover?
Yeah, I like it. I think it does a good job of communicating kind of what's in it. It's got its own kind of nice, unique style. I really appreciate that it's got designed for use with ShadowDark RPG on the cover, so I don't have to go figuring out whether or not this is for the game that I'm playing. So overall, fairly positive.
Yeah. Oh, I should have said, obviously go and subscribe to William's channel. I completely missed that out.
It's very nice of you. Yeah, we can do it at the end, but at Runeforged Tabletop Gaming on YouTube.
Yes. It's. I'm going to apologize now. It's because we've covered both videos back to back, and this is the second video. So, but you're right. There are quite a few ShadowDark books that don't include "This is for ShadowDark" on the front of the cover. So I'm then using sometimes Drive-Through RPG just to check whether this is actually a ShadowDark module, or am I going to end up with a old school essentials or just the generic OSR adventure.
Not that there's anything wrong with any of those other systems, but it's nice to know that the thing you're picking up is written specifically for the game that you want to play.
Yes, definitely. So we're going to get into the inside cover of the zine, because obviously you can't pick this up physically. And we've got a map here for the Undead Sorcerer of the Silverclaw Crypts level 1. And it's clearly numbered, which means it's a Games Master's map. So you can't actually give this out to players. So, but it'd be right. Maybe we'll find a player's map. Let's just cover this one now.
Rip the Band-Aid off.
Yeah. Let's start with. Let's get into it.
Yeah, I'll just say. Go ahead.
Go on.
Go ahead. Okay, I was just gonna say I do actually really like this map for a Game Master's map. I think it's very clear. It's very simple, concise. It's very clearly numbered. I like that the traps are actually drawn directly on here, so you can see exactly where they are. But for those reasons, not a great idea to use for a player-facing map. And unfortunately, I don't think there is a player-facing map included either in the zine itself or in the supplemental digital files. So would love to see that in future Runes zine, if at all possible.
Yes, yeah. It's because it's at $7.49 or $10.
Yeah.
You're just getting the zine with this. There are no additional VTT maps. However, William has got you covered slightly, haven't you?
Yeah, so I think somewhere in here there are links to a Google Drive file that does have some additional files in it. And let me just see if I can find it real quick. Yeah, so we're gonna go through these, but there's like a cool like custom character sheet for it. There's a PDF or an image file for one of the tables. For some of the paper printout standees that you can use for the adventure, which I actually think are really cool, and we'll talk about that in just a second. There is also the GM facing map is also available as a separate file, and a couple other little odds and ends, but unfortunately not a player facing version of the maps, which is a little bit unfortunate.
Yeah. So it's not all bad news. I totally agree with you. I really like the spike traps. I think it's really nice that it shows where they are and the square that it goes into. And
Yes.
it's a bit of a living map as well. You've got other bits of material and sort of bodies and things like that in there. So yeah, it's nice and clear. So this has
Yep.
been created by James Floyd Kelly. This is the first printing. There's copyright details in here, and the artwork is provided by a variety of other people. And then you noticed, I didn't notice this, Mid Journey, which did you say was a AI?
Yeah, it's a software that you use to generate AI images. So apparently it is somewhere in this book. I'm not. I don't want to speculate on which images might be AI because I really hate to be wrong and throw some poor artist under the bus. But just be aware of that going in if you are looking at picking this up for yourself.
Yeah, I've just had a look at Drive Through RPG, and Drive Through RPG doesn't actually list it because sometimes it does, doesn't it?
Yeah,
It
so I
actually
think
lists.
that yeah, I think that the creator actually has to go in and make a choice, and they are allowed to put just like nothing in that slot, whether it's handcrafted or with AI assistance. And a lot of people just leave it blank. And to be fair to the author, this may have come out before that option was even available, so they may not even have had the option to disclose that as AI, or at least in that one particular drop down menu or whatever.
Yeah, okay. But thank you for covering that because I completely missed it, and this is actually worse than if someone watches it and goes, "Oh, you missed this out." But we're gonna get in there. Table of contents. Now we're gonna get my criticism because as we go down here, we
Let
are
me.
not. Boom.
I was gonna say, let me guess. No hyperlinks.
That's correct. That's correct. That is my first bugbear. But the table of contents is nice and clear ish. Okay, because one thing that will be an ongoing theme as we go through this book, there's lots of random tables, lots of stuff in here, but I think the titles could have been a little bit better going through because it's got things like friend or foe, necropolis, found trophies, menagerie. It makes sense when you get to the sections, wouldn't you say? But when you're looking at the contents, you're like, okay, this. But I'm going to guess that if we look at more of these zines by the same author, we're probably going to have the same theme throughout.
Yeah, I'm curious. I haven't looked at any of the other rune scenes yet, but I'd be curious to see what is changed from volume to volume.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So we've got start with the wagon. Love this one. I just like this as a random encounter. And something you picked up on a previous thing from a speed point of view. All the tables are different d6, different dice sizes.
Yep.
So you could just roll a d4, d6, d8, d10, and d12. So tucked in the space between a group of large ferns and two oaks with giant overhanging limbs filled with leaves. So basically they come across a wagon and you're going to randomly roll it. And it's just going to give you a sort of micro encounter here.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
It seems reasonable to me. I think it's an interesting setup. Like a wagon is not something that you generally see on these random tables, at least in my experience. So that's kind of cool. There is a pretty decent variety of options here, which I like. And there's also, like you said, different die sizes used for each of these various different categories, which does make it pretty easy to roll up in the moment. I did just want to go back quickly to the table of contents and talk a little bit about the organization of the zine. As you mentioned, like there's like menagerie and friend and foe that pop up multiple times throughout the course of the zine. I really would have appreciated because I don't think there's any reason for them to not all be together. And it was a little bit confusing and dare I say discombobulating for me to go through and to see the same section over and over when I felt like they really could have been condensed into a singular section.
Yeah, totally agree. That was I was going to talk about that right at the end of the video in my
Dang it.
pros and cons side. But
Sorry.
no, absolutely fine that it's there, because you're right. It's a big thing that's confusing on table of
Yeah.
contents.
And
You
also,
know,
it just feels like it just creates more sections unnecessarily. So just why would you want to have more stuff when there's not really that much stuff there? That's my take on it anyway.
yeah. Better use of space really is what you want. So
Yeah.
so this is where we get to see the example of the menagerie and the friend or foe, and this will be repeated throughout. So we've got menagerie. We now discover bestiary, monster manual, whatever it may be. Interesting monsters, I think. Nice artwork for them.
Yeah.
Gives you a good idea of there. And then friend or foe, I'm a little bit, again, so I think it might have helped if there'd be different dice so you could roll it quickly. We've got a cutout here, which, that's the bit I've never seen it before. Don't mind it, but it's all right. I suppose it's quite good. But yeah, you're going to get some random name generators, random alignment. What are they looking for? I like the random tables for giving a friend or foe.
Yeah, I'll say I actually agree with you. I like the art in this section quite a bit. That wizard in particular, I think, is very cool. I like that we get a black and white version, kind of a grayscale version, and then for the paper mini, you also got kind of like that darkened side on the back side, so you can tell which side is the front, which side is the back, if that's important to whatever game that you're running. Not so much in ShadowDark, but yeah, I actually kind of like this. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think that's where I've noticed that the PDF version of the 3 min is available, isn't it? That's probably where, and that's hyperlinked.
Yeah. And that goes to the page that I was talking about a little bit earlier.
So that's linked to the page, but it doesn't link obviously to the contents. Okay, so this is going to be a recurring theme throughout the book, where we're going to get friend or foes and the menagerie, aren't we? So we're then going to get night out for fighters, which is basically it's another carousing thing, which I appreciate. It's nice. The only downside is it's only a D4. It doesn't really go out to the full amount. I kind of think if you're going to use the mechanics of the game, stick to the dice that are included.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was really taken aback when I first looked at this. It does make some attempts to keep the probabilities roughly the same in terms of like what you're getting as a reward. The problem is that the amount of gold that you're spending is so significantly less than the main table, that I think this one would end up being quite a bit more powerful than if you were rolling on the standard table. Maybe I have that backwards, but they are not in perfect alignment.
You're right.
Yeah,
you're right. I probably wouldn't allow it as a games master.
Yeah, I probably would not use this unless I wanted to significantly change the ratio of gold to reward.
Yeah, totally. And then we've got another friend or foe. So this giant or a dwarf, depending on what you're really looking at. I think.
Oh, interesting. I would have guessed dwarf. It looks very much like a dwarf slayer to me from the Warhammer Fantasy. Yeah,
it does. But also, it could well be a giant.
That's true. Sometimes it can be difficult to tell based just on the names.
Yeah. But very dwarvy names, if that makes sense. But again, it's following the same things. Your D4s, the alignments. What are they hunting for? And then, actually, do the other one have special? No, yes. So this one's different. So this one's got specials as opposed to what they know about.
Yeah, I mean, I think that could make sense in the context with one being a wizard. Obviously, he knows stuff, and then this one is more a martially focused character. So they needed something else to give him a little bit more flavor.
Yeah, I kind of. No, I'm going to save that towards the end, actually.
Okay.
So then we got a couple of random relics or magic items that are going to be in there. I like these. These are good. Any additional magic items with a little bit of sort of notes and flavor is always good, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think these do actually have quite a bit of flavor to them. They are a little bit strange in that in some ways they're almost consumable. I think that when you use them after a certain amount of times, or there's something to them that after they're used, they kind of like disappear into ethereal space, and you might run into them again, you might not. And I thought that was interesting. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, but like I think one of these like they just disappear, and I would have preferred a more. Yeah, I would have preferred a more diegetic way for this to happen in the world. Like, they break after a certain number of uses. That's totally fine, as opposed to like just evaporating into space. That would have been my preferred approach.
Yeah, I think you're gonna have to do a little bit of homework, and then you could have them, because you kind of want them to reappear back for the player characters at some stage.
Yeah, for sure.
So it does allow you to put them wherever you want, but you don't know why. Is sometimes we then get this Necropolis Hex Crawl mini adventure. I couldn't quite work out what this was going for.
Yeah, I'm actually not sure whether or not this ties into the adventure we see kind of later in the zine or not. Um, I think this kind of is kind of a microcosm for the entire zine. There are several things in here that seem interesting or cool in some way, but I'm not really sure how it fits into the rest of the supplement. It's not made immediately clear how these things work together, if they do at all.
Yeah, because you've got all your locations, which cover your 6 things, because you've got a market, temple, library, tavern, tower, and palace. So that's your 6 locations, you 1 through to 6. But I generally don't get it. I love the fact of what you can buy in them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll definitely be using the tables. I just won't be using the Necropolis, traveling stuff.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting setup, and the idea is cool. I'm just not sure how I would use this in my own game.
Yeah. Then we got Erebos. Big boss here, famed wizard that is now a lich. That I must say, and again, I don't want to keep doing this. He's actually the main boss of the adventure. That you wouldn't have a clue until you get to the adventure, and I don't know why he's not in the adventure section. I don't get it.
Yeah, totally agree.
But very interesting character, incredibly powerful. He is level 12. I think the player characters are going to have a tough time with him. He's also incredibly immune to any damage, while his phylactery is still around, and the phylactery is going to take 40 hit points of damage and an AC of 18.
Yeah.
And only damaged by magical items.
Yes, of which there are very few in the actual adventure. Maybe none. I'm not sure I saw any, but I'll hedge my bets and say very few.
Yeah, I didn't see many, and the adventure is for level 1 to 2 characters.
Yeah, it's really low level. It might be 2 to 3. I might be confusing it with the other zine that we looked at, but it's relatively low level. Yeah,
it is, but an interesting character. This is a really good end level boss for a campaign. I looked at that and I was like, this is a great campaign boss. And then when I found out he was in the adventure, I was like, really?
Yeah, it's a really interesting choice. And there's some so getting into a little bit of spoiler territory here. I think we're already there, but he's like he's the result of a failed experiment. It's a lich transformation gone wrong. Because he was not able to complete the ritual successfully due to some, I think, some ethical concerns that he had about the nature of the ritual, which I thought was a very interesting take on a lich. So the premise around this guy is very cool, but unfortunately, again, the implementation, the execution of it is maybe a little bit off, or not personally what I would be looking for in this type of adventure.
Yeah, totally with it. And then we've got a found trophies, which is perfectly fine. Doesn't make any reference to why we've got different XPs, but I guess it's just the power of the creatures, really. But again, well, we're going to keep doing this, aren't we, throughout the whole thing? There's lots of tables in here that are pretty good, pretty interesting, but you're going to have to flesh out. We're then into a bit more friend or foes and menageries, which is this one's quite a good one. He's kind of like, is he going to be a good paladin? Is he going to be a bad paladin type thing?
Well, according to the alignment chart, he only has chaotic options. Which
you're right.
Which I thought was really funny. I really like this art. It doesn't necessarily fit, I don't think, with the kind of classic old school D&D / ShadowDark style, but I like it quite a bit, and I don't hate that it's here.
Yeah. And then we've got this is it Bramblebee?
Bramblebee, I think. Yeah, Bramblebee. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to go with a she because it looks like she may have lady bits.
Yep, I'll back that
up. I think that's my favorite because I do like creatures that if players get too close, just little bit of passive damage technically in there.
Yeah, I actually love this piece of art. I think it's probably the best one in the entire book. Um, if the artist happens to watch this, please let me know where you found this art. I love it. It's so good. I'm surprised that it was attached to a level, like a relatively kind of low level monster. Like this looks like a pretty formidable threat.
Yeah.
I I wouldn't have minded seeing this as being some sort of boss, like some sort of boss dryad or something at the end of some sort of very cool adventure. So that's very interesting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It is cool. Then we've got this strange altar, which I don't think I could possibly use it because it's all just very much doom and gloom,
I had
isn't
a
it?
very difficult time differentiating between what is meaningfully different about these different altars. They all do seem to be very tied. Like, they all seem very thematically similar. Maybe I didn't read them close enough. Maybe there's something that I'm missing, but I did not find them to be meaningfully different.
Well, it's either Eternal Shadows, Altar of Torment, Altar of Ruin, or Altar of Annihilation. It goes very bad. And then we're into a library, which is a load of book titles and authors,
Hmm.
but not much else.
Yeah,
It
go ahead.
Go on. No, you go on.
Okay, I was just gonna say that I actually have run into situations in my games where I very much needed a random table for books.
Yeah.
Because I like to throw libraries in and stuff, but I'm not, it takes a lot of time and energy to sit down and write down a ton of different information about books. And something like this would have been relatively useful. The issue for me is it's not a random table. There's no numbers attached to any of these. So if I wanted to roll up a random book that someone pulls off the shelf, it's made that much more difficult because of just the way it's formatted.
Yeah. I actually sat and counted them. There's 24.
Yeah,
So
I did too.
it's like, had it been 20, like you say, it would have been good. Did you spend hours playing Elder Scrolls when you were younger?
I did
And
not.
just
I
picking up
actually completely
books.
bounced off of those games, which is very unusual for people in our um, age slash
Yeah,
circles.
yeah. But again, I think we covered this on the last one. You're a little bit
Yeah.
younger than me, so that was not quite college days. I was beyond that. My college days was Daggerfall. Now that's going to show
Wow.
how old
Yeah.
I am. Um, but I again, like I say, I like this because you do, but kind of spoiling my final thoughts on this. There's lots of really good random tables in this for help. So we're going to get into the adventure. So again, it's just kind of just dumped in the middle of the book, which is kind of weird. So this is a dungeon delve scenario for 6 to 8 players of first, second level. I don't think that's going to help because we've already seen the bad guy is level 10
Yep.
and he's got a phylactery that
12.
makes
Yeah.
him invulnerable. Oh, level 12, sorry, yeah. And he's got the phylactery that needs to take 40 hit points, AC 18, only magical items to actually do him any damage. And yeah, you've talked about the plot, which is the story of him, wanting to gain immortality. And we've got some adventure hooks to get them into the adventure. Um, what's your thoughts on the adventure hooks?
I don't know about the adventure hook specifically. I think that they're fine. I have more thoughts about kind of the overall setup of the adventure. If you had specific thoughts about the
Go on then.
So, like I said, I think this is a really cool. I think the background for the big bad evil dude is really cool, being a failed lich experiment. That's not something
Yeah,
that I've ever seen. I'm sure somebody else will be able to pull out an obscure reference that I'm not aware of. Please let me know down in the comment section what other adventures feature a failed lich transformation. Um, yeah, I thought that was a really cool setup. There's like some family history related stuff here as well because this is the crypt of his family, which I thought was very interesting. And I actually think that the kind of the setup for the adventure is really interesting as well, because what's happening is that when the characters go into the crypt originally, the big bad evil lich dude actually is kind of on the lower level, and he's not really necessarily going to come up and interact with them unless they do very specific things in the crypt or if a certain time threshold has been met. So I thought they were going to do something really, really cool where this was like a super blitz through, very timed experience where you had to kind of rush through to the end to deal with the crystal. But that's actually not ended up how it turned out to be, because it looks like the lich is going to come out pretty reliably just by exploring the crypt overall.
yeah, yeah. I think it's a really, really good mid to high level adventure.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Really good. I would quite happily run this with my probably 7th to 8th level player characters, and I don't think you probably need 6 to 8. It's like they've
Yeah.
done that compensation of let's put 6 to 8 in because most of them are going to die. They're all going to die in reality
Yeah.
because there's a bit that talks about the way it's written. We would expect the players to leave the dungeon, come back, and heal because they're aware that it's more powerful. Then later on in the adventure, it talks about how he's going to heal as well as the
Yes.
players are going to heal. The only thing that doesn't heal is the phylactery.
Yes.
But to get to the phylactery, you've then got the phylacter guards, which are both level 3
Yeah.
and AC 17.
Yes. Very high AC.
I can't, and 16 hit points. And level 1 and 2 characters have got between 2 to 3, maybe 6 hit points if they happen to be hill dwarfs.
Yeah. Now, so there is something to be said for the quality of the number of players that are going to be in the adventure. 6 to 8 is quite a lot. That means the action economy is going to be very skewed in the player's favor. It's not unreasonable to me that they would be able to defeat the File Guard, but the chance of them doing that before the Lich comes seems very small. And the suggested tactics for this in the adventure is to have the characters do hit and run tactics against the crystal. Go in, do a little bit of damage, run out, heal. Go in, do a little bit of damage. And while tactically that is probably the best approach and maybe the only way to defeat this reliably, I don't find that to be particularly compelling gameplay in this type of game.
No, I'm with you. It's not interesting, I don't think.
Yeah.
But also, there's 2 phylactery guards.
Yes. Yes.
But like you say, it's written in that way that the phylactery guards don't leave the room. So
yeah, and you can't.
There's no way there's no foreshadowing for the players to work out that I read. You might have picked it up, but you're nodding, so I'm assuming you're the same. That there was no foreshadowing to say, we only guard this room. There's some sign on the door or something, so they know they can, in and out. Because there's a magical item that is really useful.
Mm-hmm.
The wand that allows you to sort of walk through the rooms. And then I reread it, and you can only use it once per day. I was like, okay, that doesn't help.
Yeah. Yeah, and the adventure actually goes out of its way to tell you that the File Guards and the Lich, they are not like open to reason. They can't be, they can't be talked down. So there's no way to solve this from a social standpoint. And as far as I'm aware, it didn't really seem like there were any non-combat related ways to deal with the adventure, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But when the monsters and NPCs are this strong, only having this be a combat kind of encounter seems a little bit risky from a player engagement and wanting to come back for a second session mentality.
Yeah, definitely. And we're also missing out the fact that there are ghosts as well in some of the rooms. So it isn't just these and the traps. Oh, the bit about the traps. Do you remember that bit?
I know part of it. What were you going to say?
If the traps don't feel deadly enough, then give them poison. Where's that? There is. I can't see it. There's. Here we go. Most of the spears have spear traps added for danger on D6.
Yes.
On a roll of 6, it's poisoned, and it's going to give them a D thing. And you're like, really?
Yeah.
The bosses are already dangerous enough. The boss's guards are already dangerous enough, and then they've got traps that, if you don't think it does enough damage, give them poison.
Yeah, and then I think also so normally in ShadowDark you don't usually give -1 to hit. That's really not a way that you would normally resolve this. It would usually be disadvantage. It likes to make use of the advantages. Now that would be an even steeper penalty, and I probably wouldn't want to see that either. But it just adds extra tracking. It's only happening on the roll of a 6. It's probably just going to kill the player outright, or sorry, it's going to kill the character outright, or at least bring them to 0. So yeah, I don't know if there needed to be any additional difficulty. I'm almost wondering if this was originally written as like a level 0 gauntlet or something. And the idea was that they knew that the characters were going to go in here and be thrown into a meat grinder. That would almost make more sense to me. But yeah, just a really curious combination of factors that make this a very deadly adventure.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't feel like a level 1 adventure to me.
Yeah, for sure.
Or level 2. We have then got a couple of standees for the Phylacter Guards and Erebos. and then we're back into the menagerie. And again, standard criticism: put it all into one place.
Yeah.
The menagerie creatures are great, artwork is good. You know you can use them, but you kind of just want them in one place throughout the book. Then
Can we go back really briefly? I had
go on.
Yeah, so for the Gorka in particular, and this is something that I saw in a lot of these designs. There's some really interesting ideas here. Some of the flavor text and ideas behind the monsters are very cool, but I do wonder if there's some gameplay issues here. So, for example, if you look at the attacks here, he can either do one fist attack or one bite attack. They do the same damage, but the fist has a +2 chance to hit. Where I guess the bite's not even listed. I wonder if that might just be a typo. But regardless of that, the gang up ability gives you extra damage to the fist attacks. So I'm just really curious, why does the bite attack exist at all? I don't see any reason why anyone would ever want to use the bite when they could just use the fist. Unless it's some sort of like thematic thing. But I couldn't see anything. So we'll see things like that throughout the adventure. Yeah.
Good spot. But also, I would have liked these menagerie creatures to have fitted into the adventure.
Yes,
as opposed
100%.
to be just randomly, here's a creature.
Yeah, they are very random.
They are. And then it's like this half orc in the corner. What's your thoughts on this? I was like, I'm kind of confused over this one.
Yeah, I think it just kind of feeds back into my main criticism of this. Is it doesn't feel like a super thematic or cohesive zine. And I understand that there are plenty of zines that do that, where they just kind of throw random stuff in. But my preference is more like the official ShadowDark, Kelsey made ones, like the Cursed Scrolls, where they're very thematic. The adventure, all the monsters, all the items, all the NPCs, they're all very themed around one particular sandbox location. And I would definitely prefer that to the more random approach that was taken in this one. So that's my preference.
Yeah, definitely. And then we've got Grulg, this ooze priest.
Yeah.
Again, another interesting character, level 10. But
yeah, how does it fit in with the rest of the zine? Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm on record as being a fervent hater of oozes in all of their forms, so I'm definitely biased. So you'll have to probably take my opinion on this one with a grain of salt.
See, I love using oozes.
Interesting.
They're up there with mimics with me.
Oh, gotcha.
My players already know. When they're in a dungeon and then suddenly I'm like, there's no dust in this corridor. It's completely clean. They're like, we don't want to go any further now.
Yeah. Sounds gelatinous cube.
Yeah. What's going on? I love this ooze priest, and I love the fact it's linked in that. But like you say, how am I ever going to use it?
Yeah.
Because you kind of just need a little bit more in here. And then there's this section that feels a little bit dumped. But I do really like this section.
So this is actually an article from, if you're familiar with Dan Masters, he's Professor DM on YouTube. I'm sure you've seen his videos at some point or another. He's a very well-known YouTuber in this space. Yeah. And I didn't
realize that was actually him. So
yeah. 99%, you might want to double check me, but I'm pretty sure that is the case here. I was also curious why this is here. It's good advice, I think, especially for a very specific style of game that he likes to run. But yeah, I was confused as to why it was where it was in the scene.
Yeah, because it links back to what you were saying about the adventure. Because you kind of got the impression you were reading the adventure, is it going to be time critical before the non-lich comes out and does what the non-lich does?
Yeah.
Because this talks very much about established stakes, impose time limits, put the dice timer down that's stolen from the index card RPG. So you just put a D4 in front of the players, and every round you turn it down to a 3, then a 2, then a 1. And it just doesn't link back to anything. And then it talks about examples from things like the Mission Impossible film. But like I say, I wasn't aware of where the article came from. But it's good. Oh yeah, Dungeon Craft. Here we go. It talks about Dungeon Craft YouTube channel. Yeah, so you're all right. You've won a point. You've won the first ever point and only point I've ever given out on my channel.
Wow, I'm honored.
You are. You're currently winning. So we're then into a spell book of someone, I'm not even going to pronounce that, but Whisper Walk. Mm-hmm. So a couple of spells. They're interesting. Quite like them.
Yeah, they are interesting. I will say that for I like the idea of deflect missile quite a bit. I think it's trying to introduce a reaction kind of mechanic to
Yeah.
ShadowDark, and as far as I'm aware, that is not a thing officially in the rules. So the spell text itself is having to do a lot of work introducing a whole new mechanic. So I don't necessarily, if I was going to put this in the game, I'd probably reword it in such a way that it was maybe more consistent with the ShadowDark rules. But overall, I don't hate it. Now, wrought armor, on the other hand, feels incredibly situational. Basically, all it does is it destroys leather armor. And that means that it's a tier 4 spell, which is one of the most powerful spells in the game. And I don't think using a tier 4 spell in order to, usually you're going to be reducing the target's AC by 1, and only if they're wearing leather armor, which is, a vast minority of any of the ShadowDark creatures that you're going to be coming across. This feels like too niche of a spell in general, and especially so since it's tier 4.
I'm embarrassed that I didn't spot that.
There's a lot of stuff going on in the scene, man. It's understandable.
I was like, yeah, that's quite good. You can get rid. It hadn't actually dawned on me that just how relatively rubbish, leather armor is. So yeah. No, that's incredible. It should be kind of any armor, shouldn't it? Realistically,
yeah, I think so. Yeah, for sure.
And then we got Rune on the Walls, which I like this one.
Me too.
I did like the idea of a random, glyph or whatever on a wall with a random effect that the players, because it's timed as well, so it's either an hour or next attack or something like that, so it's not too powerful.
Yep, 100% agree. I like this table a lot. It ties in thematically with the name of the scene, which is runes. And I have a special affinity for runes as well, so this was a section that stuck out to me in a very positive way.
Okay, we've then got the Lair of the Mad Witch.
Yep.
I didn't get it.
Yeah, I think this is just a symptom of what we were talking about earlier.
Did you get to this and then go all the way back to the book and go, right, what have I missed?
No, because I was pretty sure that I didn't miss anything. But I'm glad that you did go back and check. But I didn't see anything. Yeah.
I was like, there's got to be a link here somewhere. There's a map here. There's some rumored locations and some rumored treasure in here. And had this been advertised as a random map zine,
yes,
this is really good.
It would have been,
yeah. There's nothing wrong with it. And then we've got the final sort of 3 rooms from the Undead Sorcerer, which is the bit where it's your conclusion again.
Yep.
And that's it for £7.50.
Yep, $10 US.
Or $10 and no maps.
Yeah, no player facing maps.
Yeah. I wish I hadn't picked this one because I this is the first. Well, it's technically the second that I've ever done that I can't really recommend. I can't find, but because of the price.
Yes.
And the random elements to the random tables. I'm hoping because there's more zines in there that they get better, because a lot of people rave about these.
To be fair, I think this came out in 2023, which is I think right as ShadowDark was coming out. I think we were all kind of finding our footing with the rules and stuff. Maybe people were not as familiar with how things were working. I'd love to check out more later in the series and see if maybe there's a little bit of a change in direction.
It just seems pricey, doesn't it?
Yes.
There's nothing wrong in essence.
Yes.
With everything in here, because the beauty of ShadowDark is you could easily adapt everything. It's even like the spell that you don't like. You're right. Leather armor. If it's level 4, I just make it any armor.
Yeah.
I just throw it in. The adventure. I really like the adventure. I can't throw level 1 players at it. Even really experienced players, if I sit down with my group, and we've been together as a group for 35 years.
Wow. Congratulations, by the way. That's a feat.
Yeah, it is. But this is all the thing I have when we talk on the channel, is because people talk about, like the X cards that D&D bought in and things like that. And I've never had to worry about any of that, because we've all got our own little metagame. We know what's going on.
Yeah.
We know what to expect from players. We know what topics we can include in the game and not. So if I ran this at my players, they're very experienced level 1 players. They're still all going to die. I don't see how they're not going to die, and they're not going to find any fun in it. I'm not going to find fun in running it, because all I'm doing is killing my players, and I know that I'm killing them when I'm setting them up for the adventure.
Yeah, 100%.
Make them all set level 7, level 8. I think you're gonna have an absolute blast with that adventure.
Yeah, you might even be able to go as low as like level 5 or something. Because I don't know if you found this as well, but in ShadowDark, my characters, once they hit around level 5, they started to turn into pretty beefy, pretty very capable characters. You don't necessarily have to wait till super high level to be very strong in ShadowDark.
Yeah, my worry on it is that phylactery with the AC 18.
That is a very reasonable thing to be concerned about. That's a high AC, period, full stop. Not even taking into account low level characters.
Yeah, and there's no way around it in the adventure.
Yeah. You're right.
So that's my only concern on it. You know, everyone's gonna need magical light, which you're right at level 5. Maybe we'll run it. We'll run it on the Discord.
Yeah, that would be exciting
for anyone that hasn't watched this video on my channel. But yeah, it's a difficult one because I like so much of what's in here, but I'm utterly confused of layout. And I think, like you say, it's the first printing, it's the very first piece of work.
Yeah.
So
I would never want to judge an author based on their first published thing. Yeah, and I am really eager to see what I'm going to take a look at some of the other more recent Rune zines and see if those are more to my preference.
Yeah. So, if you do want to pick this up, then obviously please do use my affiliate link or William's affiliate link. Thank you for coming on. We will do this again, and I think we've actually agreed we were talking about it, and I think we're gonna do it on your channel, aren't we? We're gonna do a full. We're just gonna talk, whether we do it live or whether we pre-recorded. I like the idea of trying to sort of set us out live so people can come on and comment.
Let's give it a shot.
I'd like to do that. It's just, I don't know logistically how we do it, but yeah, we'll give it a go. But if you've enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe to the channel. Like, share, and subscribe to like William's channel and subscribe to William's channel, which is Runeforged. Again, we'll put the link to the video in the description, and we'll see you on the next video. Thank you for watching.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.